Yes, goal setting. This is that time of the year. We all get into that mode where we wanna plan for the new year. We want to set meaningful goals, goals that are going to stretch us. But don't we make goals and never accomplish them? Well, this episode, we're going to focus on the mistakes that salespeople make when it comes towards goal setting and how we could fix those and overcome those goals, challenges, and to be more effective and successful in our planning efforts. It's a good one. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another great episode of the Sales Evangelist Podcast here on TSE TV on YouTube. I am your host, Donald Kelly, the Sales Evangelist. And I'm so excited for another great episode. I'm so excited to be here with you today. And on this episode, we have Dr. Jason Earl. And Dr. Jason Earl is a huge mentor and professor of mine. Now, this podcast wouldn't have its name if it wasn't for Dr. Earl's class. Yes, back in 2009, I believe, I was a part of 9 or 10. I took Jason's class, Dr. Earl's class. And in his class, he assigned us to read this book. I still have it here on my bookshelf, The Art of the Start by Guy Kawasaki. And I did some research on Guy Kawasaki, and we found out that Guy was the chief evangelist at Apple. And I've since had Guy Kawasaki twice on the podcast, but it was pretty cool. I was able to tell him that story. But this book was where I first heard that term, or when we did the research on Guy, I heard about the idea of an evangelist in business. And I was like, man, that's kind of cool. What if we did that for sales? When I eventually started doing a podcast, my buddy Jared Easley and I were chatting, and that's how that marriage came to this title. So Jason, Dr. Earl, great friend of mine. He's a professor at Brigham Young University, Hawaii. Also, he's a successful entrepreneur, and he worked with many large organizations. You'll hear in his story today as he gives some examples, some of the mistakes that he made when it came to planning and leading projects, leading team, and he's going to give us those wisdom and insights on how those can help us as sales professionals in our effort to plan out our year or to plan out our months and to make sure that we're staying on track. It's a powerful, awesome concept that he's going to share with us. I want you to glean and gain a lot of wisdom from it. So we're going to go ahead and dive into the episode. Listen to Dr. Earl, apply these things, and you'll see success. Welcome to the show, Jason.
It's great to be here. Thanks.
And I know we were joking before that it's about time. It's like, why am I all the way at this episode? Because we wanted to get all the junk out of the way before we got Jason. We are paving the path for the Jason Earl, Sensei.
Yeah, number 1,367.
Well, man, we're super stoked to have you. Super stoked to get your ideas on this, because we're going to talk today about goals, but not just goals in general. So many people are getting those things right now, end of the year. How do I set goals for the new year and so forth? But more than just setting a goal, I want to talk to you more about assertiveness, like being assertive with our goals. And because there's only so much a manager can do, but for an individual. So I want to just dive into that and just start talking. What's the biggest problem you see right now when it comes towards sellers or come towards individual when it comes towards not being assertive with their goals?
Yeah, I think the biggest concern is trying to do too many things at once. I mean, the essence of strategy is you're focused on just one or two things. So there's this laser-like focus. And that really only works with our goals when we decide to be really assertive about what we need to accomplish and what we're going to do in our own lives to change in order to accomplish those things.
Yeah, and I can definitely resonate with the idea of doing too much. I mean, I've been there where you're the jack of all trade, expert at none, and especially when it comes to the world of selling, so often it's like you're chasing 10 different rabbits, and it's like, well, which one? You're not going to catch any of them if you're trying to do that, but being focused. So, coming from a standpoint, how do we go about doing that when you're changing from the world of you're chasing many to now an individual seller? You still need to hit your numbers, you still need to hit goals, or a business owner that still want to hit certain revenue goals. How do we transfer from that world to now let's focus on with assertiveness?
Yeah, I think a big part of this comes down to asking yourself, what's the one thing, if one thing changed in my life, how would it impact and improve all these other areas? So, the secret to failure is trying to be everything to everyone. And we've got multiple hats and we're trying to fulfill multiple roles. But if you could just take some time to really concentrate and focus on what's the one thing that I could accomplish here that would improve all these other parts of my life, whether it's financially or mentally or spiritually. And I think this really was driven home to me as a young engineer working for a big oil company, where I had these massive offshore projects. We were spending probably $25 to $30 million a month, which in Exxon terms was nothing. That was like a drop in the bucket. But for a young engineer right out of school, that was a lot of money. And I had a lot of contractors. I had a lot of employees, and it was a mess. I was over budget. I was off schedule. People offshore were getting injured, which we would never want to have happen. And my boss pulled me into his office and he said, Jason, we're sending you to assertiveness training, which in Exxon terms means that I was like this close to getting fired. That's like the last thing before they let you go. And so I basically went to this training class. It was only about 2 days. Mm-hmm. And it changed my life. I came back a different person. And even to this day, my mom says, going on the mission changed you, getting married changed you, but working for ExxonMobil, that definitely changed you. You are a different person today than you were before that. And I think that's when I came back, and I had a very short list of goals, a new list of priorities. I made some serious changes. And it was a do or die scenario. I think that's when you really make changes, is when you realize, I've got one shot at this. I have to do it right. And you reprioritize everything. And it made a huge impact. I think it changed who I was as an engineer and as a manager. And when we finished the project, we were overspent by about $20 million. And I walked back into my boss's office and I said, Paul, the project's done. Here's the results. Please don't fire me. And he was like, fire you? He's like, we just spent an extra $20 million training you. Now you're actually useful. Now we can go do some real big projects. So, yeah, I think that's the thought I would really share on how to make these kind of changes.
So I'm curious, you mentioned before that you were over budget, things weren't because so many questions came up during that little part there, and I absolutely love that story. And I love how when you can always go back to your career and pinpoint one pivotal moment that changed your trajectory tremendously. But for you, what were you doing that, because I'm sure people listening to this saying, man, that sounds like me where I'm running around, but what was the problem? If you can give us a day-to-day operational issue that was making you over budget or making you over plan. Was it just like you were doing too many things in one day, or what was that like? If you don't mind giving a little bit deeper behind the secrets of the oil giants.
Yeah. I think the biggest problem was I did not set clear expectations. I wasn't clear on what the objective was and what would happen if we did not meet that objective. Bad things are happening, and I was kind of like a pincushion, just taking it like, oh, that's not good. Oh, that's not good. Now a storm's moving in. Oh, okay. Now we've got to demobilize 120 divers. I was just kind of taking it instead of being proactive about, here's the expectation, here's the contingency plan, and if we don't meet this plan, this is what happens next. And you guys all know. So one of the big things that happened was just a new plan was put together. I fired probably half of my staff, all my contractors. I got a whole new team on board.
After your assertiveness training.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because it was time to perform. I'd had, up to 6 months of, okay, this is nice, let's figure it out. And now there were very few options left. And I think that's what we need to do with our own goals is put ourselves in that scenario. It's not comfortable to feel like your back's up against the wall, and you got to fight your way out of this thing. But mentally, we need to ask ourselves, what's this one thing that I absolutely have to change? And once we make that decision, it's amazing how all of these smaller decisions are kind of taken care of.
Mm. And I really like that fact that you say put yourself in those uncomfortable situations. We have a program right now which is all around sales mindset and around our mindset altogether. And one of the concepts that we always try to emphasize to the sales reps or anyone going through the program is just that. Like, you think about it in what's going to cause you to change, what's going to cause you to move, and it's being uncomfortable. Because for many of us, I mean, let's look at numbers. If we say right now at the end of the year, many of us are looking at our numbers and we're like, it was 2020 but we came close to our numbers. It's okay. But if our manager said, well, it's 2020 and we're going into 2021 now and we're starting this year off, we need you to double your numbers within 8 months or you're fired. You're going to try some new things. You're going to say, well, crap, I need to make sure what is the crap that I'm doing right now that I shouldn't be doing, because you never had to ask yourself that. And it goes back to your scenario, which you gave that example, because you probably never thought to fire people. You don't want to fire anyone. Why would you want to do that? They've been working for years. Things are going well. Don't rock the boat. No pun intended.
Right. And I think also there's a flip side to that. When there's consequences when we don't meet expectations, but there's also huge rewards when we do. So when we rewrote the contracts, brought on the new team, I had probably 3 different engineering firms working for us and a dozen different contractors. But when I laid out the expectations and said, if we meet these objectives, like, this is the signing bonus, like this is the positive side of accomplishing this together. So it wasn't just the punishment. It was really, how can we do this? And then most importantly, what can we learn from this that we can take onto the next project? Because for a lot of these contractors, they want to know they've got a long-term lineup of projects with the company. And so if we can be successful on this project, there's 20 more that we can work on together. And it was just a whole new mindset, and it really helped me think about my own life. Like, where were some areas that I could be improving, and then how could I mentally put myself in that situation where, okay, Jason, this is a do or die scenario. What are you going to do differently? And I think you're right about that comfort zone. All growth comes outside the comfort zone, and you've got to consciously put yourself there so that you can, take on these new attributes and really try do things differently.
I love the fact that you also mentioned, like, the whole, because it was a carrot and a stick kind of concept there, right? Where you have rewards. Did you give yourself any personal, besides the looming, this is the do or die scenario, Jason, did you give yourself any type of reward for hitting your goal or being successful in this project?
No, but my boss did. So I think, I actually had a really good boss at the time, and he saw that I was struggling, and I think they probably could have let me go, but he was the one that talked to his boss and said, hey, let's get this additional training for Jason. And so when we got through this whole nightmare of a project, he did a couple of things. One, he let me share our findings with senior management about what went wrong and why it went wrong and what did I learn from it. Mm-hmm. And then they basically said, hey, this is a good engineer. He's not a great manager. Let's send him to business school. So Exxon paid to send me to Tulane. So I went to Tulane nights and weekends for 3 years on Exxon's dime. And that wasn't what I expected, but it really was a reward. That changed how I thought about engineering and business and project management. And it set me on a whole new course.
My goodness, that's amazing, man. Congrats on that. That they invest that much in you. So the key is underperform so you can get the benefit. I'm just kidding.
Right. Well, I think what happens, I think you really, not to get all zen on you, but I think when you make a decision to change and do something very differently, it kind of puts you in a new place mentally, but also I think things around you start to shift. Like the way people perceive you, the way that you perceive others. And I don't want to say that the universe conspires, in your favor, but it's amazing how things start to line up where things that you just saw as major challenges or major problems suddenly become big opportunities.
Yeah.
And nothing breeds success like a small amount of success. I think people around you see, wow, like this person's getting stuff done. They're picking up new accounts. They've got this new client. Maybe I should introduce them to one of my clients. It's just things, they really start to snowball in your favor. And I don't know, I think about your audience and what they're struggling with day to day. And the first thing I would suggest is put yourself mentally like with your back up against the wall. You've got to change. What's that one thing that you could change and do different?
That one thing you could change and do different. Yeah, I've 100% there. I mean, and I love it, and I don't think it's Zen. I used to always thought that it was like all like cuckoo, caca. You're getting kind of like a kooky out there with all this mindset stuff. But over the
Yeah.
past year, 2 years of doing some of these things, it works. And oftentimes you kind of attribute some kind of explanation to it. But we try to focus a lot of it comes back to neuroscience, right? But it's because your outlook just starts to your confidence. People can, like, I guess, exude or kind of see that confidence, and then that confidence allow them to have that belief in you. And I can tell you, people say fake it till you make it. It's not so much to fake it, but it's that if you can come with the confidence of the capability of doing something, then opportunities. Yeah, like you're saying, people might say, well, this cat Jason is pretty cool, man. Well, maybe I can connect him with one of my clients because it sounds like he knows what he's talking about. I understand that problem. But you went with that belief and that confidence rather than going in, well, I think we could help you. I think you can succeed. But it does. Mindset is there. It is so, 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 so critical. You're my manager, and I'm in a situation where I had a rough 2020, and I blamed a lot of it, Jason, on the situation at hand, the world circumstances. My Black Panther is gone, Sean Connery, and all kinds of craziness that happened in 2020. What do you tell me as how would you coach me through these concept of being assertive, of being focused on the one thing? Let's just, maybe we could role play that. How
Sure.
would you guide me through that now? 'Cause I'm
Yeah,
full of
I
excuses.
appreciate. I'm glad we got this time together, and I think it's time to just confront some brutal facts. Um, how do you feel about this past year with 2020, and what do you think that you could have done differently during this time period?
I don't know, Jason, man. It was just like a bad year. Everything just went wrong. I mean, all the deals I had just dried up. No matter what I did, people weren't answering their phones. Nobody were doing emails. It was just hard to get a hold of people. So I don't know. I guess if I could have stopped COVID, then maybe that would have been saved my year.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's pretty common to blame COVID for everything that's happened to us. I would really encourage you to see this differently. I don't think the world has really changed. What's happened is we've just accelerated. We've jumped about 15 years into the future.
Hmm.
So what we're experiencing right now is exactly what business would be like in 2035.
Hmm.
So knowing that, what would you do differently going forward if this is the new normal?
Well, I guess recognizing that people are not going to be at work, I never used LinkedIn enough, but maybe I could have done more with trying to find them on LinkedIn because I can't get a hold of them via the phone. I know Bobby does a lot with, get a lot of referrals from his current customers, so maybe I could have tried something to that nature as well. I think maybe I could have just maybe interview some of the current customers and ask how they're operating to see if I can replicate that with some of our potential customers. I don't know.
No, I think those are good ideas. It's interesting that more and more people are using, yeah, LinkedIn and other social media tools to connect. Um, I I think it's good to know that people sound busy during this time, but they're really they're just sitting in their chair in between Zoom calls. This is what's happening to like millions of people across the country. So I'd like to recommend some assertiveness training for you. I'd like to send you to Austin, Texas for 2 days and take this course. And I think it'll really change your life.
I'm up for it. I mean, I do want to be better, Jason. I know you have a lot, believe in me, so I want to perform for you, and I want to be able to perform for my family. You know, we're expecting our sixth kid on the way, so you know.
Six. Yeah.
Don't tell my wife this episode.
Yeah, the last time we were together, I think you just had one, so that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, the one is one. Yeah, but no, I love what you did there because it's not like you acknowledge the challenge, you acknowledge that those things are there, but then you didn't take it as like, you know, money in the bank. You're like, okay, but in addition to that, yes, and I guess is what you did. Yes, and what could you have done? Because clearly other people are doing stuff that's working. And I love that concept. And I think so many people probably that breakthrough. I never thought about it like that, Jason, that we just went 15 years in the future, but you're 100% right. How many people are going to be working in the office in a traditional sense in 15 years per se? Is this to accelerate the work from home concept? Do we have to find just new ways of doing things when it comes towards grabbing people's attention? I don't know. That was a really good way of looking at it. So I love that.
Well, and it reminds me of a phone call I had with a student former student just last week. Mm-hmm. He works for Tesla. He's been there a couple of years now. He's one of the few employees that actually works for both SpaceX and Tesla.
Oh, jealous.
And he was telling me how frustrated he was because he's like, look, you know me, Dr. Earl. I'm tall, I'm bald, I'm muscular. When I walk into a room, I command respect. Like we get stuff done. And now I'm just another talking head on Zoom. He's like, I don't have the same attributes and skills that allowed me to lead a team so successfully. He's like, I've got to recreate myself. I got to find a new way to motivate my team, to keep them engaged. He's like, before, I didn't realize how much I relied on my physical presence, but he's like, I don't have that anymore.
Wow.
And it just made me realize, you know, these skills and this knowledge we're trying to share with students at the university. It's interesting because in a way it's a good thing. What students learned in the classroom was how to be a student in the classroom, which is it's a terrible thing to learn. If these students were honest, they would tell you they spend the first 2 to 3 weeks of every semester trying to figure out what their teacher wants. Like they're just like, they're gaming the system. And now here we are, we're all on Zoom. We're like running the simulation or covering a case study. And I can tell my students, hey, guess what? This is the real world. This is how you're going to communicate. This is how you're going to get work done. This is it. So we're going to practice doing it like the way the world does it. So I know it really does seem like a negative and higher education is about to crumble. But in many ways, I think there's a whole new world that's opening up. And if you have just a little bit of discipline and a little bit of insight, you can learn some amazing things like online through some of these podcasts and training programs. I mean, the wealth of knowledge you've built in just the last couple of years rivals probably most sales programs across the country at universities. In fact, they don't even talk about sales. They talk about marketing, which is super lame. So, I mean, what you've built here it's available. It's applicable. I mean, it's world-class material. And really, I think the people who are going to say, hey, look, I have to put myself in this uncomfortable position. I have to make these assumptions. And now it's time to perform. And that was, the one thing we got out of this assertiveness training was the story of the message to Garcia. And I would encourage all of your listeners to Google it because it is a fascinating write-up by this guy named Albert Hubbard back in 1899. And we'd just gotten through the Spanish-American War. And basically his plea is, where are the Colonel Rowans? Where are the men and women who are going to take an initiative, take an assignment, and go and actually get it done? He's like, 99% of the people out there don't. They have lots of excuses. They have reasons. They have questions. They're like, well, where's my committee? What resources do I have? If you go back and read the message to Garcia, Like, this is a guy who takes the directive from the president, takes a boat to Cuba, and then 3 weeks later comes out of the other side of Cuba having delivered the message to Garcia. And if I learned anything from my little startup company in California, was out of a group of 60 employees, I had 2, maybe 3 that were Colonel Rowans. Like, these were employees I could let them know, hey, this is the mission, or this is what I'm trying to accomplish. And they found a way to get it done. They didn't come back with 1,000 questions or 5 excuses or why there's a worldwide pandemic. Man, they just found a way to get it done. And I will admit, they made some mistakes. They racked up some charges on my American Express, right? They did some crazy things, but they were worth gold. I mean, I could not find enough of these people. And I mean, I don't want to get too personal, Donald, here, but like, you were one of those few students. You were like a Colonel Rowan. You found a way to get stuff done. And if I ever went back into private equity, I would go back and I would handpick these students. I don't care where they are, who they're working for. I would grab that guy from Tesla. I would grab you from Florida, right? And I would like rebuild this team to say, look, this is the new world. This is the opportunity. Let's go and do this together.
Oh man, well, that means a lot, and I appreciate it. I hold you in high respect. So I think this 1367 became the #1 episode now. So no, I honestly though, I appreciate that, and it means a lot coming from Jason, Dr. Earl, as we know you. So thank you, and vice versa. If there's anyone that I'd follow into battle, it's Jason. So this is awesome. And I'm gonna look this story up now. This is gonna be my evening study tonight now. So the message to Garcia, study that. Jason, if there's one takeaway you want somebody listening to this episode to walk away with, out of everything that we shared today, what's that one piece of advice?
I would just say, make the change. We all know what it is. Personally, for some of us, it's it's a bad habit. For others, it's an anger issue. For many, I think it's just getting off your butt and like cancel your Netflix account, right? And decide to like do something with your life. But whatever that one, whatever that one thing is, just make the decision. And I would get mad. I would say, damn it, I'm going to do this thing, and I'm going to change, and I'm going to look back to this is the day, this is the moment I decided to make this change. And I promise the people around you, they may not know what it was that you decided on, but they're going to feel it. Yeah. And the world is going to shift around you again. And not some kind of weird, like astronomical way, but in a way that you can feel it, and you'll have this reassurance, this confidence. And anyway, and I'm just excited to see it happen for my students' lives and for those around me. And I wish your audience the best.
Awesome. Well, Jason, if folks out there want to listen and want to get a hold of you, what's the best way for them to do so?
Just my email. That's a good way. So jasonscottearl@gmail.com.
Awesome. We'll put that in our show notes. Jason, thanks so much for coming on the show today. Appreciate it.
All right, great. Take care.
That was Dr. Jason Earl, and he is phenomenal. I highly recommend you go back and connect with him. You can find this information in the show notes. If you scroll down, you'll see some information there as well on YouTube, where we put our succinct summary, so to speak, of some of the major takeaways from the episode. My team is doing some amazing work listening and pulling out all of the great bite-sized information and strategies that you need, so you don't have to go back and do a ton of reading. Check out the show notes. But connect with Jason on LinkedIn. Tell him that you heard him on the Sales Evangelist podcast, and tell him thank you for having us read Guy Kawasaki's book and helping us to discover this name for our show. I'm a big fan of Jason, and I highly recommend you connect with him again. As always, I bring folks like Dr. Earl on the show because I want you to learn from them. I want you to be able to thrive. I want you to succeed. I want you to find more of those ideal customers. I want you to know what to say when you reach out to them. I want you to be able to close more deals. But most importantly, every single day, I want you to change your mindset and go out and do big things. Thanks so much for watching. Hey, thanks so much for taking the time to watch this video today. If you enjoyed the content, I ask you to go ahead and hit that like button, that thumbs up in the bottom right-hand corner. Also, to make sure to subscribe if you haven't done so already. This way, we'll keep you up to date with all the latest sales strategies, latest tools, and things that are going to help you to not only find more prospects, but to close more deals. Thanks so much.